I'm extremely delighted to announce a moderator for the session on powering women to thrive in the new normal. I invite Vaishali Aranha, Director, Societe, Generale Global Solutions Center Private Limited, to take over and introduce our panel to the audience. Over to you, Vaishali.
Thank you, Ujwala. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, all, and welcome to Her Rising 2021. I am Vaishali Aranha. I'm a director at Societe Generale Global Solutions Center, Bangalore. I am passionate about driving empowerment of women and increasing the footprint of women in my organization. I'm also spearheading some of the key initiatives for moms-to-be and returning mothers. I envision a future where a career for women is only progressive and is not compromised, but well balanced even after the onset of motherhood. So the topic for today, powering women to thrive in the new normal. Let's face it, the definition of normal has most certainly changed. And the world of work has been quick to adapt, even though the learning curve continues upwards. So what is normal now? Working from home full-time is normal. Digitization of all HR processes, from interviewing to onboarding and troubleshooting, it is the norm. Not physically having met new employees is normal, and fostering relationships with them and others via video chats is just how things are now. In this hyper virtual world, companies have also ensured that they're going the extra mile for the mental well-being of their employees and doing all they can to make their physical space at home look a lot like the spaces in their offices where they're used to working from. A big shift and a positive one post-COVID has been that of workplaces becoming more family-friendly and not just women-friendly, because after all, the entire family is now trying to strike the work and home life balance. Now that the professional ecosystem has seen this major shift and is prepared to take on more that is probably yet to come, what additional means of support are required for women to thrive in this new normal? What is this new normal that we're all talking about? And what are companies doing or working towards at each step? We talked to Daina, Kasturi, Sumana, and Saravana to discuss this, and I am delighted to introduce them to you. Daina Emmanuel is a technology leader and a people leader from Xperi, passionate about perfection and innovation. She has taken various embedded system and video streaming products to market. An advisor and a mentor for startups, Daina also works for social causes. Daina was among the top 50 EGMP stars recognized by IIM Bangalore. She is an enthusiastic traveler, an avid reader, a food explorer, and enjoys running. Welcome, Daina.
Thank you. Thanks, Vaishali.
Sumana Sarkar is the ESG head at Global Business Services, Bank of America. She was recognized among the 100 most impactful CSR leaders. It is a global listing, and she was recognized at the World CSR Congress in 2018. Her areas of specialization include CSR strategy and implementation, stakeholder engagement, social impact assessment, sustainability program management, and reporting. Sumana is an occasional poet and a full-time trivia collector. Traveling to explore people, cuisine, and culture is one of her key interests. Welcome on board, Sumana.
Thank you so much, Vaishali. Happy to be here.
Our next panelist is Saravana Krishnan. He is a director, employee success at Salesforce. He has experience in business partnering, leading center of excellences, business strategy, designing and developing HR systems and programs, and delivery of HR solutions in global organizations. He is a certified HR excellence assessor. He represents CII in assessing blue chip organizations for CII HR Excellence Awards, and also operates as an industry representative in Board of Studies with academic institutions. Passionate about enabling organizations and individuals to unleash their potential, He is a firm believer of culture eats strategy for breakfast. Welcome on board, Saravana.
Thank you, Vaishali. Excited to be with all of you. Thank you.
As a transformational leader and visionary in HR and business consultation, Kasturi Cotha is the head of HR Bengaluru and HRBP for product and technology globally at Taylor and Francis Group. She has vast experience in global setups across human resource functions, business, and strategy. She is a board of trustee with She for Society, working for the welfare of Indian Armed Force veterans and their families. She incidentally is an avid biker who rides for purpose rather than for pleasure. Welcome on board, Kasturi.
Thank you so much, Vaishali. Pleasure to be here.
With a collective experience of over 90 years, our panel has immense knowledge and is passionate to share with you their insights on the topic. So I'd like to address the first question to Kasturi. Kasturi, in your over 20 years of experience in the field of HR, you must have come across women who have faced several different professional challenges. The last 1.5 years have been unprecedented and no doubt posed several challenges to HR professionals. What have been your key learnings, especially when it comes to supporting women through these tough times? Can you share some examples of initiatives or programs that your organization has undertaken to support them?
Sure, Vaishali. Thank you so much for such an important question. And I'm sure it's an important question for all of us. In my opinion, let's not limit this only to professional or employment related challenges, but rather challenges for building the ecosystem for women to flourish. Many women have volunteered to take career pause with the fear for not being able to handle the expectations for each role that she performs. This is surely because there is absence of support system both at personal front and professional front. After all, we all know the demands on women is not a joke. Added to all of these complexities, pandemic has made a perceptible effect on women and their work life across professions or occupations, across industries and levels as well. We all know the data depicts that women have lost jobs more than men, etc. But I think we'll preserve all that for some other day and we'll not go there. Let's be part of a solution and leave problems to be part of problems. For India to get a $3 trillion economy, we need women to contribute to formal sector than to remain in unprotected and social sector. Organizations have realized that there is a huge women workforce deficit and that must be filled and has to be retained. Therefore, there are increasingly looking at widening the base of diversity and better representation of gender ratio and making it more inclusive. We all are aware, many organizations have been successfully running their women startup programs and for great time now. And indeed, Jobs for Her is a good testimony for it. While it was the consideration of larger conglomerates, it has now influenced the mid-sized corporations to think and setting the women empowered workplaces to beat the deficit. And that change, or that's the shift that we're seeing. In a way, the current pandemic, of course, this is my personal notion, the current pandemic has influenced or pushed organizations to redefine the working norms, which is in great way paves convenience for women to remain in the career or rather even restart their career. Measures such as reducing working hours, flexible working hours, blended way of working, more acceptance to remote working, and above all of this, my favorite, parental time off than maternal time off. In fact, this is influencing a transformation in the social norms, openly calling out that homemaking and parenting is a joint responsibility and not confined or to be compromised only by the woman of the family. When such changes seep into the neighborhood, changes are paramount, inevitable, and we are getting there. So this is a positive shift, we must say. I'm part of an organization which finds people at its crux in every initiative, every intervention in which we drive. The people first concept is on the focus. We have rather introduced many of such great practices, and trust me, pandemic was not required for us to drive such change. In specific to our Bengaluru entity, we are driving the initiative for women in tech, and therefore we ought to be here. We identified our digital transformation is well accomplished with equitable participation of women in the workplace to build and retain more sustainable tech community within Taylor and Francis, Vaishali. And those are my personal notions.
Wonderful, Kasturi. I take from your point that you just mentioned, equitable contribution and not equal contribution. And I think that is extremely powerful and well planned out by the organization. I also see that a lot of, as you rightly pointed out, a lot of companies are making it more of the focus on paternity, not paternity, but about opportunities or empowering men to be able to help women. And
Absolutely.
I think that is fantastic as well. So thank you, Kasturi, for sharing that.
Thanks.
And my next question will go to Daina. Daina, your journey has been fueled with a passion for empowering and mentoring the next generation of leader technologists. And you've also taken this forward as a mentor, right? In your conversations with women during the new normal, what have been your key takeaways? And what solutions have you been able to provide, given your vast experience as a people leader? Also, how has your organization supported this?
Thanks, Vaishali. Very important theme. And good morning to all the listeners on a lovely Saturday morning, I should say. So in my journey, I witnessed, of course, as we grow in the industry, especially the technology side, you'll find less women as your colleagues. So we are collectively trying to fix this imbalance. Overall, the participation of women in IT industry is higher than other sectors. But now what we are trying is we want them in the leadership roles, we want them in the senior roles, and we want them to be in the race throughout. So I'm an advisor to a startup which is started by 2 women. So, and I can understand, be it in the corporate life or be it in the startup life, there are multiple challenges which come to them. And if I have to summarize 3 key career questions or 3 limiting factors which revolve around generally the mentoring discussion, they're around self, family, and in the new world, it's around the new virtual world switch. So when we say about self, it is the discussions in mentoring session are often about the choices one should make in their career path, their self-doubts, the growth path, how to switch roles. I think women tend to have a lot of self-doubts. They tend to underplay themselves, and they set a much higher benchmark for themselves to switch any roles, take any new technology, explore any new opportunity. They feel they need to be perfect, or they have a much higher benchmark. So it becomes very tough for them to take new opportunities, and they may either let go or they may lose those opportunities. So generally, strategy which works in this case is be in the present moment. When you start spiraling into these thoughts of self-doubt, you tend to lose focus, you tend to divert your own capabilities in the wrong direction. So be in the present moment, shift your awareness to the present moment. You can do it. Think of all the positives and different challenges which you have taken in your life. Keep those as your ready reckoners. So anytime your self-doubt comes, oh, come on, I have done all those 3. I can do one more. So have those in your mind. And this is one key thing which goes in many women's mind. It could be even for small switch, they tend to have so many questions for themselves. So this is on the self side, which they do. The family, the second theme, which is very important in the sense many women have questions. So prior to probably this 1.5 years, it was about marriage, relocation after marriage, children, taking care of kids, parents, in-laws, all that came in. And now in the last 1.5 years, we see there is a loss of childcare options. There is online school. There is relocation to larger families. So it has become overwhelming to balance your career. The only option out is you have to voice it out. You have to voice it out. You have to voice your concern with your family and with your manager, team, whoever needs. Discuss, form a plan, because you don't want to let go for this reason. So I know some people make a choice, yes, this is my priority, then fine, that is your personal choice. But if it is not your personal choice, discuss it out, see how you can make it work. There have been many women who have come forward, and I think when the discussion is open, the manager, the family, the women together are able to make a plan which works out. And on the final concern, which I would say that, so this was the self and family we discussed. The last one is about uh, the stress, discomfort, anxiety due to constantly being online. So if you see, you are in Zoom calls, you are in email, multiple collaboration tools, you are living a virtual life. And unfortunately, this life is an isolated life. This is not what we are used to. So you don't have the office environment, the office relationships, which we are so used to. Now, people are missing this, and people want it back to that normal. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the new normal anymore. So till this is the current normal, we need to accept it. We need to make maybe social connections in the current environment. Because every time if we keep pining for what was there before, we are just going to be in a loop. So this is the third thing which is very stressful probably. So these are the three key takeaways, I would say: your self, family, and the new virtual world.
Great, Daina. I like that you touched upon the point about self-doubt. I think women are very prone to doubting themselves, and this is not at the nascent stage of the career, but even if you talk to women leaders and people who are even, the CEOs of companies, you find women have a lot of self-doubt. So I think that is the starting point. Start with yourself, as you wonderfully mentioned. So thank you for sharing that, Daina. Let me move on to the next question, and that goes to Sumana. Sumana, you have changed countries and jobs and during this pandemic. So you have a personal experience of being onboarded virtually, and most likely not having met the people that you have worked with. So can you throw a little light into what that is, and how does one adjust to this new normal? And I think a lot of our participants today are people who want to get back into mainstream work. And there was a question which I saw popping up from someone about switching careers during this pandemic.
Thanks, Vaishali. It's interesting that I'm, now in a position to bring this personal experience sharing, which is sort of, important and has suddenly become relevant in today's context during the pandemic. To begin with, I have to admit that it wasn't really planned this way, but to zoom in a little bit more into the concept of change and how does one adjust to any change, leave aside the pandemic alone. So I think if you are someone who's always been open to changing, whether it's a career path from a linear trajectory to trying something new, and technology is a great enabler, while I totally agree with one of the panelists before me who said that, it's also very isolating. And this notion of how isolated you can feel really exacerbates when you leave an organization where you spent, as in my case, quite a few years to join a new one. And to add to that, I coupled a country, continent, and sector change together. So it's not for the faint-hearted, to say the least. I may not have exactly planned it out to be this way, but this whole experience of getting onboarded remotely, quite safe to say that I didn't know at all what this would mean in terms of how you feel when you go through the emotions of working with people who you've never met in person, right? From the hiring to, getting onboarded, having your introductory meetings. As many would know that roles such as ESG or CSR are essentially those of intensive stakeholder management, both internally and externally in any organization, straddling leadership levels. So for a newbie to then navigate that without any of, as we would call it back in the day, org intel, which comes to you from joining a new organization and, soon figuring out people who are more, who respond to you better, who are more like you, who you can resonate with. So just imagine that this whole element is taken away. So it's me, the way we are today, and a WebEx or a Zoom environment, and then you're starting out in a new place. So what has helped me, though, of course, it's, wisdom is always better in retrospect. But I think just the fact that somebody mentioned beautifully, I think it was Kasturi or Daina, to say that, stop pining and whining. This is the reality. So as much as I felt at every node that, oh, this is suboptimal because, it would have been so much better with the human touch. Or it would have been great if I could meet my hiring manager even once in person. So I got hired across companies and countries without ever having, met any of my stakeholders. So after a point, I gave up on that. Because that's the reality. So I wholeheartedly embrace that. And then other than a formal onboarding plan, what I did is I went ahead and chalked out every day for the first almost 40, 45 days, a catch up with someone who is not necessarily in my line of work in the organization, but somebody that I need to meet, and necessarily on every Friday, somebody that I don't need to meet, but it could be a useful ally down the line, or it could be somebody that you need to work with, though not within the the formal organizational structure. So that's something. And for everyone who is wondering about making these gigantic changes while the world is changing in any case, let me tell you that the discomfort is at both ends. People who've been working with each other for 10, 15 years are, equally ill at ease to acquaint themselves with someone brand new. So I think there is a bit of a ground to cover at both ends, for employers and new employees, because everyone seems to be doing exactly what one of you said before, that we are assuming or thinking in our head that, this is temporary, and then there's going to be exactly how the world was before March 2020. And that's not going to happen anytime soon. So as with any change, keep as much of an open mind as you can, embrace it wholeheartedly, own the decision. There have been countless instances. I'm now about less than 90 days old in the new organization, where I have a leadership role to look at an important area of environment, social, and governance. There have been countless instances when I almost felt like this wasn't a good timing, or this wasn't the best time to make this move. I would have covered so much ground by now if I were going back or if I were joining into an office environment, but that's not to be. So this, as with everything, realities that you didn't bargain for sometimes force innovation. And innovation is not necessarily only in your area of work. Innovation perhaps in how you build alliances and networks in a new place. So that's what I would say, that it's been obviously a mixed bag, and I recognize the challenges at both ends, not just mine, but even on the part of people who were tasked with, let's say, onboarding me. And the other thing is, when you have a leadership role for a team, I lead a small size team, so perhaps not that many people. But having said that, it's definitely tougher to start discovering the team dynamics, to find people's strengths, how best they work, without the help of body language, without the help of informal coffee catch-ups and things like that. So I would just say that whoever's joining at this point or changing roles to lead a team will have to be a lot more attuned to picking up cues and would have to be willing to invest much more time, whichever format works for you, blended, online, offline, to get to know them better. And the onus is on you, of course, as a leader. Yeah, so that's that. Thanks for the question, Vaishali.
Thank you, Sumana. That was truly insightful. What I did take from what you said is innovation is also about your mindset. Human beings are, the most, I think, suitable for change. And change is inevitable. So if I were to just, summarize what you said, the first one, accept that this is the new normal and this is the way onboarding is going to be for the near future. And second is organize yourself so that you can figure out how you want to connect with people in the organization, given that you can't physically meet them. Is that right, Sumana?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
That's well summarized. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next question is to Saravana, the sole gentleman in the panel. So Saravana, have the challenges to make a workforce more inclusive changed post-COVID? Or has the pandemic worked as a leveler and actually made your job easier? I ask you this because you're a HR, representing the HR field.
Thank you, Vaishali, and it's a pointed and a deep question to answer. And it was great insights that the fellow panel members brought in. And the answer is yes and no to say. First one is to, one of our core values is equality. So the organization's DNA is built on equality. So pandemic has come or not, I think we've designed in such a way that very inclusive, and equality is our focus in every action that we take, be it in terms of working with United Nations climate changes, contributions, from designing a product, as well working with the local community and society. That's the way we've been thinking and operating. It's been like, what, a decade back, Mark Benioff went and spoke about bridging women salary, and if at all, if there is any guidance. So that's how we've set the standard high for us. As recent as the Texas state had a law about reproductive health care. And soon after that, Mark Benioff announced that we're okay to transfer our employees to other states to help you personally, professionally, and the company will take care of help you enable your career as well, relocation. So these are testimonies to say that how we think ahead. Having said that, certainly pandemic has taught a lot more to us. All of this was while we were thinking and designed to operate this way. I think post-COVID, what has happened, it certainly worked as a leveler, because fundamentally the proximity bias is something that we are dealing big time. So we consciously going to the root cause of the issue in terms of creating awareness among our managers and leaders to recognize the abilities and capabilities and the impact that is created by men and women. You can't see them in person. It's been what, 18 months, a little over 18 months. How can you tune yourself and challenge some of your unconscious bias to very well recognize this? So a lot of efforts have gone in that space. The second one is about we are probably in many forms from our senior leadership to all the way country leaders, we tell them to be authentic and speak about yourself. Leaders are not Superman and Superwoman. You have your own struggle, you have your own challenges. How do you overcome and show them your vulnerable side of it? And then how do you deal with it? So these are a few things which is increasing our circle of influence to speak about openly. So our women network, lean-in circles, speak about challenges that women have in their managing their work-life balance, managing a tough context, our ecosystem. All of those makes a substantial difference. The third one is about with all the, I think the moment we announced in March 2020 that we are going to be remote and fully remote, a lot of excitement around, hey, we're going to work from home, the travel commute time is reduced. And then every Friday was a lot of parties, events, and bring speakers from all walks of life, tell them. And we realized in no time that this is killing people's time and they're not able to kind of bring in a balance. Then we said, we'll go slow. We'll ask people what do they want and where do they want to spend their time. So we consciously aligned quickly and made sure that we announced a concept of understanding and establishing a teaming agreements within the organization. So every manager have a teaming agreement to understand what time you will plug in and plug out, what time you are available for meetings, what time you're not available for meetings. How can you grow out of your bias that all of us may have a luxury to sit in a room and without any disturbance to operate, but you have kids walking around or you have elders being around. How do you kind of truly understand and then reflect in your conversations, keeping all of those aside and stay focused on what you need to deliver? So we've been working at a core level to see that some of these biases are challenged, help our managers to look at purely impact independent of gender, and all our benefits are gender neutral. So we don't go behind defining it for a gender. So all of this, if you ask me, it has actually worked as a leveler. Today, our talent reviews and assessments that we make is on the impact that people have brought in. And it's not about how closely were you involved in few projects, how closely were you being seen on different forums and internal, external, all of that. And the last one to say, I think we very clearly position Slack as our digital HQ. So we say everything happens in Slack. So earlier, there were times that we work in a global environment. So there are calls starts at quite early if you have your internal and external stakeholders. So now we tell people to you plug in and plug out. You don't need to be in IST hours. You can keep and choose important calls that you want to make. So all of this has made a very clear level playing field. Effort for us is to in terms of removing unconscious bias, help people to kind of stay focused on outcome, help our leaders to be authentic and stay connected with people and speak about the realities of the world and see how we integrate work and life. That's the broad outlook that we've been driving at. I'll take a pause here.
Thank you, Saravana. I think what really struck me in what you said is that policies that are gender neutral. I think a lot of times we focus on how to give women more, but maybe we need to also look at how do we equalize the playing field. I also appreciated your point about be authentic, bring your authentic selves to work. And I think there are a lot of organizations that are talking about this. That makes the person and the organization and the environment more humane, I think. So thank you for sharing that.
Vaishali, you have gone on mute, I guess.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, so the next question I'd like to address to all the panelists. So you can take turns to answer it. What I want to ask is that while some of the benefits to remote working say that employees are also dealing with financial uncertainty, right? Burnout and mental health issues. And this we know for a fact. As a result, certain groups are really struggling, like working mothers and senior women as well. Companies are at the crossroads now where they need to be deliberate about redesigning this new workplace and the new normal, or else risk losing women who are struggling the most. And we have seen that in the last 1 year globally and in India as well, more women have left the workplace than the previous years. So can you share examples or initiatives that have been taken in each of your organizations to redesign the new workplace policies or practices? So Sumana, I see you've unmuted. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. As the one with maybe the maximum distance from the HR tag, let me give more of the employee experience side, while my esteemed panelists, co-panelists can talk about. I mean, I'm sure they are at the helm of driving some of this in their roles. like Saravana. So I have the luxury of reflecting on it in the context of two organizations, both global multinationals, of course, and some of the things that have been done across both. One is to stop talking about flexibility and making it way of life or a way of working in the new normal. So some of the things that Saravana said, I saw that happening across both my organizations, where you have each team understands when the team members are available, and allows them to work according to the rest of their responsibilities. And this is now well recognized, formalized, and put in practice. And again, then the other side of this is to not hold this against someone. So flexi work timings in general, no punch in, punch out, since there isn't one physical space to which you go to begin with. And then also reactivate networks around these themes. Where I currently work, we have lots of employee networks, but the one that really caught my attention recently is a parent and caregivers network that was launched as a support group to share stories, resources among employees. We are all either parents or caregivers, or most of us are in some or the other capacity. And we do talk about challenges of childcare. Somebody mentioned how there's loss of childcare support, which I see, having come back to India, is really impedes women's ability to be available at work 100%, even while, during the work hours, because there are several other responsibilities to take care of, which are happening in parallel. So to accommodate that, and then bring feedback from employees' experiences into the organization and close that loop. So these are some things that struck me. Of course, there are policies to help employees procure furniture to live and work out of at home, internet, mobility, and those sort of other infrastructural support, which I think many of us are privileged to have. And it's come from thought that has been put in by employers to make these possible. But I think nothing goes as far as understanding and empathy. So one particularly good practice that I saw, one of our very senior execs embrace, is to make sure, so if you have a team of like 300 people or so, but to make sure by rotation that he speaks to each one who's not his direct reportee at least once in the course of every 2 months. And he's been doing this by rotation for the last now, 16, 17 months. So things like that, going out there to, reach out and hear people. And he shares with us who report into him directly that this has helped him enormously to get to know, what's going on in people's lives, and therefore other things that we might need to introduce to help people live and work better, or to balance things better. So these are just some of the things, but I'm sure my co-panelists will have a lot more to share.
Great, Sumana. Thank you. What was interesting, I found, is the parents and caregivers network. And I'm sure there was a lot of thought put around how to structure that, intentionally, and to make it, I would say, beneficial for the employees in your organization. Okay, so we move on then, Sumana, to Saravana. Would you like to go next?
I think Sumana covered at a high level the key points, and maybe another dimension that we've been making some effort is the mental health first aid. So getting our managers trained on mental health first aid. Now, all this while, if you have a challenge, I think sometimes with all your busy schedule and to drive impact, you don't make a note. So first step that we introduced in the last almost a year plus, any meetings that you start, you do on a check-in conversation first to understand how the team is doing. And we have a green, amber, red. So you understand personal, professional situation. How is the week looking at for you, and how are you? Do you need any help? Now, initially it was a bit cosmetic. People are quite, what are we doing? Don't we know each other? But over a period of time, it started really helping people to open up and tell them about what's running in their mind. What are avenues they needed help? And now it's become a culture. None of the meetings starts without doing a check-in conversation. That was a big win for us. Second one is EAP services were available for ages. It's been decades and decades that we've been having EAP services, but EAP utilization was very low. It was always, there was a feeling that it is a stigma attached to it. Oh, do I need to really use the EAP services? But we don't hesitate to call up our doctor when we have a mild fever. The conscious awareness creation about EAP services, also training our managers to be a mental health first aider, certify some of them to see that you are able to spot disengagement, you're able to spot if there are anxiety, if there are depression signs. Are you able to technically spot those in the earlier stage? Am I audible? Is there something else?
We are hearing a disturbance, Saravana.
So we are coaching them and certifying them to see that they are able to spot this early on in the game and then refer them to professionals to seek help. And that's a big effort that we are making it, and it's catching up with. The last one is about benefits. I think the industry has kind of invented different kinds of benefits to pivot, helping women and employees at different age groups. What are different things that we need to be doing? Young working moms who have children, we have thought about doing a lot of options for them to engage their children and home tuitions, whatnot, all of those, and then middle age. So every age group, we conscious that we are including in the way we design our benefits. And the last one is about our announcement is very clear. The roles are pretty fixed. So we have ensured that we will come out of all the patches and announce almost 98% of our roles are going to be flex. And these flex roles are opening up gateways for men, women to explore their career aspirations, and consciously tied up 1/3 of our roles had to be internal careers. And that's how we are switching the whole game forward to see that we are able to address all segments of employees thrive on this particular pandemic that we are dealing with and pandemic associated ecosystem. I'll take a pause. Thank you.
Thank you, Saravana. Did I mention that? Did you mention that you are training, your organization is training people to be able to spot mental health issues?
Yes, we are getting our managers on the mental health first aider certification to see that they are able to spot, because managers are busy driving impact, and all the more when you don't see each other, you have your checklist to walk into a meeting and then go behind it. But can you take a pause to see what's happening? And you know the individual, you've been working for so long. Are there ups and downs? Are you sensitive to these enough? Can you take a pause? Can you have a chat? So that's the line of discussion. And when you see something, refer them under the confidentiality clause, check with the individual, and then get them, help them, encourage them to take professional help. Those are a few things that we've been working on.
That's fantastic, because we do see with the pandemic, the mental health issues have been increasing like we've never experienced before. So if your organization is taking cognizance of that and taking steps towards identification, it's truly remarkable. So thank you for sharing that, Saravana. I see Daina wants to go next. So Daina, over to you.
So again, I am on the receiving end. Again, I head the WIT in our organization, but I have a core engineering team also. So it's like taking care on both ends. There have been a lot of sessions which we're doing, getting done, but again, we did it in a quite feedback mode, because at some point you see a Zoom fatigue. At some point you see, okay, I need me time. I need a time where I can probably schedule the learnings on my pace. So there are so many different modes that different employees have wanted. So one is, of course, a flexibility around that, and giving them the freedom to, yes, please make your choice. Second is, we do have a lot of device dependencies also in our specific work. So how could we get all the devices to the employees so that they don't feel less productive than they were in office? So when you have all your, I know a lot of offices have taken on furnitures and ensuring that they have the right work environment. Along with that, for maybe specifically our work, we also need certain devices. So how can a person feel, yes, my work environment is as complete as possible? On a mental health side, we have had certain sessions on emotional intelligence. Again, those are to make aware, but of course, the managers have a very huge responsibility, as Saravana said, of spotting at the right time, and to either lend them help or advise them to take help. So this is something which we are aware of, which we try to make it a part of the general usual check-ins. And again, giving the freedom to people to come forward and tell us, having such an open culture where people feel free to come and tell that, yes, maybe I am impacted by this, so I need either a break, I need flexibility, I don't need calls after 10 o'clock, I need to get my sleep cycle right. There are so many problems which people come with. So being cognizant to that, working out certain small things, sometimes it's just being aware which creates the first step to taking actions for these problems. So from a receiver side, this is what I would like to say.
Thank you, Daina. So if I understand correctly, you're creating a culture that there will be no repercussions should a person come and ask for more flexibility, for help, or to reach out.
Right.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Daina. And last but not least, Kasturi, if you would like to share your views as well.
Yeah, I think my job is made easy by the other three panelists, because I reflect and, I'm now more and more confident that more of the organizations are taking the similar approach. So it just inculcates more as a habit. I'm so glad that we have been in winning race, doing most of the activities that are called out. Apart from that, one of the slightly advanced piece that we have done is calling out facilitator-led unconscious bias sessions and making it very compulsory for every individual to go through. And of course, there is no time compulsion given. It's spread across the years. It's not time bound. At voluntarily, people are bound to take. And there we discuss about how different these microaggressions and things like that could have been in a virtual world versus the physical world. So it's very explorative, and then calling out those nuances that we will have to keep in mind. And the mental wellness that we have been talking, perhaps being part of the publishing world, we did have that kind of resources made available even much before the pandemic became really global implicit. And during this second wave, we witnessed that community, the co-worker community coming forward voluntarily, helping out. I mean, whoever is in distress, can someone else help? Not physical, but then what best can be done with the connects that one could have. I mean, by securing a hospital bed for any of the family member they needed, or being there just to create that kind of bonding. Trust me, after that, wave is over. I mean, it's brought us more closer, and that kind of a fellow colleague, bonding has strengthened, although we are all working in virtual world. And then what we're also looking at, and I'm sure many organizations and many of us will be focusing on, is putting the culture in the center and making it so agile, and making it taking many strategies, which is very agile. And because what could have been supportive a year, the first year of pandemic, may not be what is relevant for this times. So keeping it so very agile and time flexible is another important focus that we have driven. And then check-ins at various levels. I'm sure I'm really glad to be part of the HR profession for 22 years that I'm in. I've never felt so satisfied, much before in my career space than when I'm putting myself here, because the personal connect and the kind of entrusted, quality work that is asked by HR, and then all of us living up to it has been so very satisfying.
Thank you, Kasturi. So I hear you saying that the HR profession has gained much more momentum, I would say, and has become very deeply entrenched in ensuring that we all get through, or the employees get through this pandemic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Kasturi, for sharing. I'd like to now address the next two questions to Sumana and Kasturi. If I may ask you to restrict your responses to about 1 minute, so that we can, cover a few more questions and people. Okay. So the next question is for, as I mentioned, Kasturi and Sumana. How can companies and individuals take advantage of the new normal to best prepare their employees, and in particular women, to upskill themselves to meet industry expectations of the future?
Sumana, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So, keeping it really brief, but also talking about ESG, which in India, maybe people more commonly use terminology like corporate social responsibility, citizenship, sustainability. I just want to say, I mean, this is not a plug for my profession or line of work, but I think one of the things while people are reporting and equipping themselves with new skills is also for women, both entering the workforce and at various stages of career. If you were looking at a path, then this could be one of those paths, because this has become very front and center. Saravana incidentally briefly touched upon, the organization's commitment to climate action, UN Sustainable Development Goals, etc. So this could be something that I urge people listening in today and otherwise to look at as a new career path. These type of roles tend to be important, visible, relevant, and also quite location agnostic as well as sector agnostic once you build some domain expertise. So that could be one thing. And also I see that all L&D professionals in both the organizations that I've worked in are looking at making learning more flexible and accessible. So there is usually, I don't know who it was who said that there is no dearth of resources, it's the will that's missing. And while I say this, I also fully recognize that time is a challenge. Virtual meetings fatigue is real. Having said that, I think most of our organizations are making 21st century learning skills or 21st century skills available. And it's up to us to make the time and use this opportunity. So just that. Over to you, Kasturi.
I resonate completely with whatever Sumana has shared. I mean, just to add on to what she shared, I think the change in the trend, I mean, within the 2 years of the first year of pandemic and the second year of pandemic, even the organizations have shifted their investment, right? I mean, the first year went on to enable remote working, work from home and all of it. And soon after that, we see a 360-degree change. And then there is heavy discussions that's going on in terms of investment in career development. That career development, I mean, the trends are so fast. I mean, I'm sure talent supply can be a huge hit if we are not addressing. And the only way we can address that is the skill development. It's not hidden from all of us that skill scarcity can be a serious, can have a serious implication. So I think recognizing the fact and making all the skills as much as transferable as possible, and making a shift and recognizing efforts in driving, whether it's organizational initiative or self, recognizing the fact that it's now the opportunity for reskilling, upskilling, cross-skilling, whatever skilling, but that's the order of the day.
Thank you, Kasturi. So it's the now. What I get from your messages, take opportunity of the now and go with it. Okay, thank you. And Sumana, interesting to hear that aspect or the angle of ESG, and that is perhaps you're quite right in saying that that's the new career.
Great insights, and to hear it from you, the people who actually, women, who are at the platform today, who seek to get answers from, have got them from you. I think that's a testimony to the fact that it's just up to us to gather the will and find that opportunity, because like all of you have very clearly said, there is no dearth of opportunities here. We just need the will to find them and go ahead. So thank you so much to Vaishali. Thank you, Kasturi, Saravana, Daina, Sumana. It was an amazing panel discussion on powering women to thrive in the new normal.